Why the U.S. didn't annex all of Mexico. In 1848, the U.S. won the Mexican-American War. Washington annexed territories known as the Mexican Cession, but many Americans weren't satisfied with half of Mexico. They wanted to annex the entirety of it. Obviously, that never happened. Let's break down why. 1. Both countries came to an agreement. By 1847, Mexico was outnumbered and largely occupied. It couldn't defend itself through conventional warfare, so it entered into negotiations with the U.S. envoy, Nicholas Trist. Trist was largely seen as being too pro-Mexican. He negotiated a lesser settlement than was intended, but at this point, James K. Polk just wanted everything over with. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed on February 2, 1848. Mexico surrendered half of its territory and its claim to Texas. It acknowledged the Rio Grande as the new border. In exchange, the U.S. paid Mexico $15 million. Washington also assumed debts owed by the Mexican government to American citizens. Trist later commented on the treaty,
"My feeling of shame as an American was far stronger than the Mexicans could be."
He was fired upon his return. 2. The annexation could have upset the political balance. Mexico had abolished slavery over a decade before the war. If annexed, its status as either a slave or a free state wouldn't be clear. Northern states opposed the expansion of slavery. Southern states advocated for it. Each state had equal representation in the Senate. The annexation of Mexico could have tipped the scales in favor of one side. Polk was himself pro-slavery, but his party had just lost the midterms. The House was now controlled by the Whig Party. Therefore, Polk had to compromise. 3. Mexicans were seen as different. Many U.S. politicians were worried about an influx of Spanish-speaking non-white Catholics. South Carolina Senator John C. Calhoun said,
"We have never dreamt of incorporating into our union any but the Caucasian race, the free white race."
Rhode Island Whig Senator John Clark also objected.
"There is a moral pestilence to such people, which is contagious, a leprosy that will destroy us."
4. The U.S. couldn't afford a long and expensive war. The U.S. suffered over 12,000 casualties. The war incurred a cost of $100 million. Polk had promised a quick win against an inferior enemy. As the war dragged on, American troops moved further and further into Mexico. This was no longer a small victorious war. Incorporating all of Mexico would have led to a guerrilla war. 5. The Mexican War didn't have unanimous support. Many Americans, particularly in the North, viewed the war as an unjust aggression. Annexing all of Mexico would have escalated this opposition. 6. Americans believed in manifest destiny. In the 1840s, the U.S. experienced a population boom. Washington sought additional land for farming and business. Many Americans embraced the concept of manifest destiny. They believed it was their divine mission to settle new territories. They started the war to acquire Texas, not the entire Mexico. In the end, they did it anyway.